If I looked at your website and your other marketing materials, what would I think about your MSP? Would it be really clear for me who you serve, what you do, what you're great at, and more importantly, why I should choose you instead of the 20 or 30 other MSPs in your marketplace? Well, most MSPs just don't have that kind of clarity in their messaging. And I'll tell you something, it's killing your sales. So my special guest today is an expert at making messaging simple. Your eyes are about to be opened as to how confused messaging is killing all of your marketing efforts dead.
Hi, I'm Jesse Flocken. I'm the CEO of Clearly Relevant, and I'm just excited to be here today.
And not as excited as I am, Jesse, because we are going to be talking about telling stories. We're going to be talking about getting your marketing message clear. And you and I both know, we both work with MSPs. We know how difficult it is for most MSPs to understand what story they should be telling and get that message across, get any message across to their audience. You and I have both been on lots of MSPs' websites and seen the same thing again and again and again. And we know how damaging that is when you see the same thing again and again, because to the prospect who's trying to pick an MSP, they don't know which one to pick. So we're going to explore those kind of themes today. But you have an awesome backstory. Give us the brief version of your life up to this point.
Yeah, the brief version is that I was a firefighter for almost 15 years. And, the one thing that firefighters I feel like are really good at is that overwhelming, excellent customer service at all costs. And so through that, I had taken customer service classes and other things. And as I started continuing my education, I actually was starting to go to medical school. And by going to medical school, I was in the process. I had not started yet. And I was in the process, and we accidentally started a business, and our first client was a Fortune 100 client. And so it was really just a wild ride. And there's a lot of pieces of that backstory, but it was really neat. And that was the inception of, now I've owned this business for 12 years. I left the fire department 4 years ago. It wasn't until I really found that radical purpose and clarity in what I was doing. And today we'll talk a little bit about messaging, but in my own life, and even my wife and I did this little workshop that we do for people. And it was just about finding radical clarity about what I want to be known for at the end of my life. What's that look like? And if that's going to be true, what has to happen today in order to help, make those things come true? And so that was when I really just went all in. And in just, the last 12 years, now I've been the CEO of a company. It's been growing. We've had some, some twists and some turns and some evolutions, but, it's really been a wild ride. And now we've done everything from take 80 or so adults to Disneyland with some author and some other folks just to have a little bit more whimsy in their life, to we've taken people on marriage retreats all the way to Hawaii. So it's really just this all-encompassing crazy journey to where, we started in customer service and the marketing, the internal marketing space. And now here we are working with authors and speakers and financial advisors and MSPs and alike.
Yeah, I love that. You're going to have an awesome next 30 years, it feels like. So you had an awesome first 30 odd years, however old you are right now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about messaging then. So we know that MSPs struggle with messaging. It's one of the hardest things. In fact, it's the question I get asked that I struggle to answer the most, which is how do I differentiate myself from the 10 other competitors in town, the 30 in our surrounding area, the 40,000 that are out there? Because in theory, every MSP is up against every other MSP. And a lot of that comes down to messaging. Why do you think MSP owners struggle with messaging so much?
I think there's a couple of things. The first thing, honestly, I think that most of the MSPs that I meet, they're actually struggling with really one or two things. And, the first thing is they're usually not struggling because they're bad at tech. They're usually stuck because their messaging is really confusing, or they're actually invisible to the people that need them the most. And so some of those common pain points I see is, they're actually competing on price instead of value. The other one is struggling to explain just what makes them different. Like you said, if you had 100 websites, they would all kind of feel the same. And even nowadays with ChatGPT,
nowadays, you can do it on third attempt.
Yes, with ChatGPT, sorry. But even nowadays with all this AI and everything, you could even put it up to them to say what's the difference. And you can't often tell. There's just maybe a slow list of pros and cons of whatever's publicly available. And so because of that, marketing efforts, they feel scattered or reactive. And then it really creates this like feast or famine client acquisition style. And so I really think that you're great at what you do if your ideal customer essentially can get what you do in 10 seconds. Because if the ideal client doesn't get in that first 10 seconds, then they're just going to go find someone else who can explain it better. It doesn't matter if you're actually better at it. They're just going to go find someone to explain it better. And, one thing that we'll talk about later is, truly that trickles down. So it's not just from you to your customers, but it's also about giving your customers the words to talk about you to other people. And so that's where I feel like, there's just we have in our own business, we have like a launch, market, and grow silo. And most people always want, and I'm sure you see this in your lead generation, all the other things that you do, most people want to go right to like, I need more leads, I need more ads, I need all those things. And I'm like, if we don't get this message right, then we're going to pay money to get this message out there, to get people to your website only to confuse them. And so now we're actually paying to confuse your customers rather than get really, really clear on who you are and what you can do. And to the point of where our team right now for our own silos is actually redoing each silo and package and offering one by one so that we don't get stale in this and that we're consistently evolving.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Is spending all of that money when you haven't actually got the basics right, the fundamentals right, is kind of nuts. But it's what most people do. By the way, I'm with you in saying how difficult it is in saying Chat GPT. It's like for something that has become such a massive service so quickly, they could have given it a much better name. I mean, even the alternatives. I suppose Claude is okay, but Perplexity, that's an even harder one to say. But anyway, there we go. Gemini. Google have got it right with Gemini. So let's look at those fundamentals and talk us through more about your you called it your silo, and I forget the three elements to it. But that I love a system. I love it when someone's got a framework and it's something you can look at it and you can say, right, I need to do ABC, 1, 2, 3. Just talk us through a little bit more of that. And for the MSPs who are listening to this or watching this on YouTube, what are some specific things that they could do to help get themselves clear on how they would communicate their message, briefly and succinctly to their prospects?
Truly, I think it comes down in really like 5 or 6 steps here. And number one is, like something that, like if we reveal the curtain a little bit, and this is, Viktor Frankl and StoryBrand and Donald Miller and all these folks have talked about this. But truly, like you have to take yourself out of the hero position. I think the best example is plumbers. Everybody has seen a plumber commercial where, there's like 10 guys getting out of a van. And they're like, we're here for you, all these things. But honestly, if there's a plumber commercial that just says like, hey, you wanted your spouse to fix that leaky faucet for 6 months. We show up on time. We'll be done. We'll be there when we say we'll be there. And you can always have that leaky faucet will no longer be there anymore. And you can go about and enjoy your day. And something that's actually placing you as the person to help them get what you want. So I will talk about that a little bit later. And I'll give some laser focused examples that any MSP entrepreneur can put into action today. Because truly, again, that common mistake is they're trying to sell the drill or the hammer when really what they need to be selling is the picture frame hung on the wall. And so, in all of this to say, it's not just the value, but it's actually something where rather than selling, in this analogy, selling the drill or the hammer, it's something that the client just wants their family picture hung on the wall. That's it. Yeah. In the same way, there's a whole lot of different things for the actual business owner that they want. So I'll just say here's some practical, I'm going to skip to the end just a little bit, but we're going to come back. And I think just that practical piece is really thinking about, an MSP that might be selling 24/7 monitoring. Now what they actually need to do is start selling peace of mind for a business owner. Like that business, over and over, there's case studies, those businesses double in literally monthly recurring revenue in 18 months, every single time. And it's because you're not selling your service or anything else. What you're selling is the end result of what your customer actually wants. And so there's a few ways that we'll actually break it down. Number one is, I think just placing yourself as the person that's going to help them win the day. in the Story brand or in the Viktor Frankl, they talk about that guide. And so, for me, I was a firefighter to the CEO journey. I've helped Fortune 100s and financial advisors and entrepreneurs and speakers and authors, all these things. But truly, I build Clearly Relevant to solve like the biggest small business failures known, which is they're not clear and they need a scalable message. And truly, for me, it's something where I just saw friend after friend after friend and business owner after business owner where they had a great service. They were actually really awesome, which goes into the silos that I'll talk about. But they couldn't get the word out. They couldn't get people to come. And they had these businesses that hit these ceilings. And so truly where that came from, and you asked me about our silos, like the launch, market, grow. The launch silo, again, everybody wants to go right to the end, or they have a really great service offering. I would say MSPs are also specific to where they usually have a lot of systems and processes and people that are more on the analytical side of thinkers, but usually they're imbalanced with sales folks in a way that are not technical sales, they're relational sales. And so this is where I think messaging brings internal communication to a head in a positive way. It gathers your team around the right vision or core values or things like that. And then also the external message that actually gets your customers excited, like, oh yeah, I want that. It's no like secret that like a common sales question is like, hey, like truly aside from all these things we're talking about, like what keeps you up at night? And some people might say, oh man, family or whatever, like there might be actually some other things going on. That's a really important relational sales tip. But most of the time they'll say, in that analogy that I said about like 24/7 monitoring, like, man, I just keep wondering, like, what if these sites go down, or if I can't get a hold of people, or I have a team in India, and so the time zones from the US or, like wherever we are just flip-flopped, or the Philippines. And so it's those things where once you hear those things, you are now as an MSP owner, you need to be selling the outcome. And so that's where you're shifting from tech support to a business growth partner, and you're breaking into a premium market where you're actually able to clarify and say, hey, you need to hire the right people and scale without some chaos. And so that's where you say, like, when you change your story, you're actually changing all the type of clients you attract. This is something in a real life scenario in the last 24 hours. I'm working on a trademark for be a lighthouse, not a firehouse. And we talked a little bit before this about our like firefighting background, but essentially most businesses are just going and putting out fires over and over. MSPs know this probably more than almost any other industry, because IT is a constant situation of where they are calling you because they need you to respond to their fire in some capacity. And so, there's lots of different speakers, and if I ever write a book, it's going to be a combination of all these different things and how we do it. But I think that the common thread is that essentially, and this is true in any industry, but if you are even real estate, financial advisors, anything, like you are absolutely a commodity if you're not standing out and leading your industry in some way that's unique to you. So you don't have to be better. You don't have to be cheaper. You don't have to do it. You have to be leading in a way that truly you're a lighthouse to your audience. And so just by doing that, before we go to this next piece, if you just think about an actual lighthouse, by projecting that light out, it's going out. It literally is drawing in people away. It's also protecting people from what they don't want to hit in a real life situation. But it's something that the more you put out the light of your leadership and what you guys do really, really well, and you're selling those outcomes and that peace of mind as a business owner. Now business owners are not looking for an MSP company. They're looking for that peace of mind. So the MSP owners are looking truly for that outcome and how to be this guide rather than this hero. And so with that, like just some really practical pieces of that, so people know what it looks like, is right away in your own team. You don't have to outsource this yet. This is if you're a 1 person or a 5 person or 100 person team, take just one service offering, write it down, rewrite it, plain, absolutely benefit-driven language to where it sounds like something that anyone can say. Then rewrite it until it's unique to you. But the more you can pare it down to get that simplicity, that clarity, and then get it to where it's unique to you, clarity wins every single time. The second piece I would say, and the final piece, is really a strategic piece. And that's just pick some 90-day marketing goal and commit to ignoring every other shiny object, distraction, anything else, because they're all going to come at you at once. Just focus on that one, 90-day marketing goal and commit to getting rid of everything else, because getting clear is going to be the single most thing that's going to change your business.
Oh, Jesse, there is so much there to unpack. I think this is going to be one of those podcast episodes, YouTube videos that people kind of go back 30 seconds and just be like, wait, hang on, that guy just dropped another value bomb, another one. There's so many good ideas to unpack there. What you could do actually is just help us by summarizing all of that for us. So for an MSP that's sitting there, they know they've got this problem, but they're not quite sure where to start or what's the main thing that you've come up with there. How would you summarize that? What would be your closing point, as it were?
Thanks. I really appreciate that. And I think that if I could just have one business owner walk away from MSP, it's just knowing that the silent killer of MSP growth is not competition, it's confusion. And the last thing about that is that the human brain ignores whatever it doesn't immediately understand. And so that's where you can just take that one offering, you actually take it from a way where you're not selling what you offer, you're selling the outcome that they want. And that's where the 24/7 technical support now to peace of mind for the business owner.
Yeah, exactly. So 24/7 technical support is a feature, but the benefit is, hey, when you're working at home at 9:30 at night and the printer just won't work, you've got someone to help you. And you don't have to feel bad about calling that person to help you, which of course is the benefit. Jesse, amazing. We're going to get you back on the show in the future. I think you might be a special episode just waiting to happen where we can give you space to explore some of these massive, massive ideas. Just for now, though, tell us exactly what you do to help MSPs and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Right now, you can currently go to clearlyrelevant.com. And really, we like to just really drive down on the messaging. The messaging is so important. We can do websites, we can do lead generation and other things, but that's something that I defer to you for the lead generation in those areas. For us, we want to get people laser focused on their internal messaging for their team for great hiring and getting the support they need, but their external messaging, so when they are ready to go out into the world, most companies are great. We just want to tell the world that they're great, but we got to start with that messaging piece.
And what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Clearlyrelevant.com, we have a short discovery link on there. So if they go and book a free discovery link, then it'll break up at 15 minutes. It'll be directly with me or the team, and we'll kind of dive into what the biggest problem is, the challenge is, and how we can help. And often we'd like those free discoveries to also be something that you can walk away with and do without ever needing us. You don't have to be our client for us to help you. We always want to provide that. So go to the website, clearlyrelevant.com, and book a discovery call.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.